In the summer of 2012, a family checked into a canvas tent cabin in Yosemite Valley. It was one of the most beautiful places they had ever seen. Granite walls rising a mile into the sky, waterfalls catching the last of the evening light. They slept beneath the same stars that draw nearly 4 million people into this valley every year. Then they packed up and they drove home. Weeks later, one of them was dead. Not from a fall, not from a bear, from something they had breathed inside that cabin and never once saw. A virus, carried in the dust of a mouse nest hidden inside the cabin wall. That summer, 10 visitors who had done nothing more dangerous than sleep in a tent were infected. 3 of them died. And it raises a question that has almost nothing to do with the way most people picture danger in a national park. What if the most dangerous thing about Yosemite is not the thing you came to look at? This national park is loved by millions of visitors every year. But what most people don't know is the dark truth hidden beneath its beauty. Stay until the end to discover the shocking reality. Yosemite sits in the western Sierra Nevada of California, a little under 200 miles east of San Francisco. It covers roughly 750,000 acres. That number sounds abstract until you understand what kind of 750,000 acres they are. This is not rolling country. It is a landscape that was carved, polished, and split apart by ice. The granite that defines Yosemite was formed deep underground, tens of millions of years ago, as molten rock cooled slowly into some of the hardest, cleanest stone on the continent. Then the land lifted, the rivers cut down into it, and during the ice ages, glaciers ground through the valleys and scoured them into the vertical world you see today. Half Dome rises almost 5,000 feet above the valley floor. El Capitan is a single unbroken wall of granite about 3,000 feet tall. Yosemite Falls drops 2,425 feet, making it the tallest waterfall in North America. These are not gentle features. They are cliffs, and they do not slope. They simply end. The park was protected early. In 1864, in the middle of the Civil War, Abraham Lincoln signed a grant setting aside Yosemite Valley and the Mariposa Grove of giant sequoias. It became a national park in 1890. That makes it one of the oldest protected landscapes in the country, and one of the most photographed places on Earth. Its image is everywhere. On calendars, on screensavers, on the backs of phones. And that familiarity is the first part of the problem. Because people arrive at Yosemite feeling like they already know it. They have seen it 1,000 times. They have just never stood inside it. Most of the 4 million people who come here every year never leave a narrow corridor. Yosemite Valley is only about 7 square miles. It is a fraction of the park, and it holds almost all of the crowds. There is a road. There are shuttle buses, a visitor center, a grocery store, lodges and restaurants and gift shops. There is cell service in parts of the valley floor. The infrastructure tells your nervous system a story, and the story is that you are somewhere safe. But the valley is a stage set built at the bottom of a vertical wilderness. Step off the shuttle, walk a few miles up almost any trail, and the infrastructure falls away behind you faster than most people expect. The granite does not know there is a gift shop at the bottom of it. This is the central deception of Yosemite, and it is worth saying plainly. The danger here is not where it looks like it should be. It is not concentrated in some remote backcountry that only experts reach. It is woven into the most beautiful, most crowded, most accessible places in the park. It is at the top of the famous waterfall. It is on the smooth granite beside the popular trail. It is in the cold, clear river that looks like an invitation. The places where Yosemite's beauty is most concentrated are, very often, the exact places where it is most lethal. And the people it takes are usually not reckless. They are ordinary visitors, on an ordinary day, who made one small decision that the landscape did not forgive. Start with water, because water is what kills the most people here. Yosemite's waterfalls are fed by snowmelt. In late spring and early summer, when the snowpack high in the Sierra is melting fast, the rivers that feed those falls run cold, deep, and far stronger than they appear. The most popular hike in the entire park is the Mist Trail. On a summer day, as many as 1,500 people climb it. It leads to the top of Vernal Fall, a curtain of water dropping more than 300 feet to the rocks below. Near the top there is a pool, and a smooth slope of granite called the Silver Apron, where the river slides toward the edge. It looks calm. It looks like a place to cool your feet. It is one of the deadliest spots in Yosemite. The current at the lip of that fall is far stronger than the surface suggests. The granite underneath is slick, and the water is only a few degrees above freezing. The pattern, in the park's own words, is brutally simple. A person slips into the water. The current is too strong to fight, and they are carried over the edge. On July 19, 2011, that is exactly what happened, in front of dozens of people. 3 young adults, part of a church group from the Central Valley, had hiked up to the top of Vernal Fall on a day when the rivers were swollen with record snowmelt. Hormiz David was 22. Ramina Badal was 21. Ninos Yakub was 27, a chemistry student 1 semester from his degree. They crossed a metal barricade, the one with the warning signs, to step onto the rocks at the edge of the river for a photograph. Ramina slipped. Hormiz reached for her and went in. Ninos reached for them both. Witnesses described watching 2 of them holding on to each other as the current took them over the lip of the fall. All 3 died. Their bodies were not all recovered for months. And here is the detail that should stay with you. Since the park began keeping records in 1924, more people have died going over Vernal Fall than at almost any other single feature in Yosemite. The barrier they crossed was not hidden. The signs were not subtle. The danger was labeled, and posted, and obvious. And it was still not enough, because the water did not look like what it was. That is the thing about Yosemite's water. It does not announce itself. A river that is ankle-deep and gentle in September can be a deep, fast, killing current in June. The Merced River, which runs the length of the valley, looks like a postcard. Families wade in it. Children play at its edges. And nearly every year, during high water, it pulls someone under and does not give them back. The water is cold enough that even a strong swimmer can be incapacitated within minutes. Cold water does not wait for you to get tired. It steals the use of your muscles, then your breath, then your judgment, in that order, and it does it fast. Then there are the heights. Yosemite is, in a sense, a monument to vertical exposure, and the most famous expression of that is the cables on Half Dome. To reach the summit of Half Dome by the standard route, hikers climb the final 400 feet up the curved back of the dome, hauling themselves between 2 steel cables bolted into the rock. On a clear, dry day, with a crowd moving steadily, it is exhilarating. But that smooth granite becomes terrifyingly slick when it is wet, and the cables offer no protection from the one thing that turns the climb lethal. People have fallen from the cables. People have fallen on the approach. Over the years, the Half Dome route has killed climbers and hikers, experienced and inexperienced, in summer and in winter. And the most dangerous force on that summit is not the height at all. It is the weather. Yosemite's high country builds thunderstorms in the afternoon, especially in summer. They climb up out of clear morning skies, and by early afternoon, the highest, most exposed points in the park can be directly in the path of lightning. The summit of Half Dome is one of the highest, most exposed points there is. On the night of July 27, 1985, a group of hikers was caught on top of Half Dome as a violent storm rolled in. Several of them took shelter in a shallow cave near the summit, believing the rock overhead would protect them. It did not. Lightning struck the summit in a series of bolts. Brian Jordan, 16 years old, was killed. Robert Frith, 25, was struck on the head and fell from the cliff. 3 others were injured, two of them critically. The survivors described the sound, the smell of burning, the helplessness of being the highest object on a mountain in a storm with nowhere left to go. The disaster became the subject of a book, and a permanent part of the park's safety record, because it illustrated something that the park warns about on every trailhead sign, and that visitors override almost every single summer. The storms are predictable. The pattern is known. And still, people start late, climb slowly, and find themselves on bare granite at the worst possible hour, because turning back when the sky is still blue feels unnecessary. By the time it stops feeling unnecessary, it is often too late to get down. Now look up at the walls themselves, because the walls are not as permanent as they appear. Yosemite's cliffs are shedding. The same granite that looks eternal is constantly fracturing, as water seeps into cracks, freezes, expands, and pries the rock apart over years and decades. The park experiences roughly 80 rockfalls in an average year. Most hurt no one. Some are catastrophic. On September 27, 2017, a massive sheet of rock broke loose from the face of El Capitan during peak climbing season. Andrew Foster, a 32-year-old climber from Wales, was at the base with his wife Lucy. When he saw the rock coming, he threw himself over her to shield her. He was killed. She survived, and later said he had saved her life. And the mountain was not finished. The very next day, in nearly the same spot, an even larger slab came down, a piece of granite estimated to be the size of a 36-story building, and injured another person. There was no warning either time. There never is. No. Rockfall does not give you a signal you can read and respond to. It is the landscape rearranging itself on a timescale that has nothing to do with whether a human being happens to be standing underneath. Underneath all of these dramatic dangers runs a quieter one, the one that does the most consistent damage outside the valley. Yosemite is not just the valley floor. Most of the park is high country, rising past 9,000, 10,000, 11,000 feet, up to peaks above 13,000. Up there, the rules change. The air is thinner. The weather is faster. And the temperature can fall off a cliff of its own. A hiker who leaves a warm valley in a t-shirt can climb into wind, wet granite, and near-freezing conditions in a few hours, in the same afternoon, in the same park. Hypothermia does not require winter. It requires only that your body loses heat faster than it can make it, and cold rain, wind, and exhaustion will do that at temperatures that feel merely uncomfortable. Wet clothing, a wrong turn, a twisted ankle that slows you past dark, and a beautiful day hike becomes a fight to keep your core temperature up in the cold. The high country is also where people get lost. Above the tree line, the granite basins look alike. Fog erases the landmarks. A faint use trail fades into bare rock, and suddenly, there is no path at all, only stone in every direction. And then there is the danger you cannot see coming, the kind that operates on a delay. Come back to that tent cabin. In the summer of 2012, in the Curry Village area of Yosemite Valley, a cluster of so-called signature tent cabins had been built with insulation between the canvas and an inner wall. The insulation was warm and dry, which made it perfect for deer mice, which nested inside the walls. Deer mice carry hantavirus, a rare but vicious illness that a person can breathe in from the dust of mouse droppings and urine. 10 visitors who stayed in those cabins were infected. 3 of them died. The disease can take weeks to incubate, which meant the victims often did not connect their illness to a vacation they had already finished and forgotten. They breathed it in a beautiful place, drove home, and only later did the connection become clear. The park closed and ultimately demolished those cabins, and notified roughly 250,000 people who might have been exposed. It is a category of danger that should reframe the whole idea of risk in a place like this. You can do everything right. You can stay on the trail, carry your water, watch the weather, and never go near a cliff. And the thing that hurts you can be invisible, silent, and waiting in the wall of the cabin where you slept. That same quality, the way Yosemite can take someone quietly, is why this park has a long and unsettling history of people who simply do not come back. Every year, search and rescue teams here respond to hundreds of incidents, and most of them end well. But some do not end at all. The park is enormous, and most of it is vertical, forested, or both. A person who leaves a trail, takes a wrong drainage, or falls into terrain that is hard to see from above can be extraordinarily difficult to find. The same granite walls and dense forest that make the park beautiful also make it very good at hiding what it takes. Yosemite's search and rescue operation is one of the most experienced in the world, with rangers and volunteers who train specifically for big wall rescues, swift water rescues, and high country searches. They use helicopters, dogs, and ground teams, and they put themselves into the exact conditions that got the victim into trouble in the first place. Helicopter operations among these walls, in shifting mountain winds, are dangerous by definition. Every rescue is a risk taken by people who volunteered to take it, on behalf of a stranger who, very often, simply misjudged something. And the thing they misjudge is usually not the mountain. It is themselves. Because the most important factor in almost all of this is not the granite, or the water, or the weather. It is psychology. There is a pattern that search and rescue professionals see again and again, and it has a few moving parts. The first is the gap between confidence and competence. A person who hikes regularly at home, in gentler terrain, arrives with a genuine skill set and a justified sense of their own ability. What they do not have is the specific judgment this specific place demands, and the dangerous thing is that they cannot feel the difference until they are already in trouble. The second part is what gets called summit fever. Once a person can see the goal, the top of the fall, the summit of the dome, the destination on the map, the goal starts to pull harder than reason. They have already hiked 4 hours. They have already climbed thousands of feet. Turning back now feels like waste, like failure, like throwing away everything they have spent. And so they continue past the point where a clear-eyed version of themselves would have stopped. The third part is the crowd. On a trail with 1,500 people a day, the sheer number of other human beings sends a false signal of safety. If everyone else is crossing that barrier, climbing in that weather, wading into that river, then surely it must be fine. The crowd normalizes the risk, and it quietly silences the small internal voice that says, "This is the moment to stop." That voice is the single most valuable piece of safety equipment a person can bring into Yosemite, and it is the one most people override. Not bear spray. Not a map. Not even water, though all of those matter. The thing that saves people here is the willingness to say, in the face of a beautiful trail, a clear morning, and a goal they can already see, that today is not the day. That this barrier stays uncrossed. That this river is too high. That the clouds building over the dome mean we turn around now, with the summit still in view. Yosemite makes that decision genuinely hard, because everything about the place is engineered by nature to make you want to go a little further. Its beauty is a kind of pressure. Its scale is a kind of seduction. And here is the truth underneath all of it. Yosemite is not trying to harm anyone. It is not malicious. It is not a trap that was set. The granite cooled underground long before there were human beings to admire it. The glaciers carved these walls in a span of time the mind cannot really hold. The rivers ran cold and strong, and the storms built over the high peaks for an unimaginable stretch of years before the first trailhead sign was ever planted. The park does not know you are there. It does not adjust itself to your fitness, your plans, your schedule, or your confidence. It is simply, completely, magnificently indifferent. That is not a reason to stay away. It is a reason to be honest. The people who love Yosemite most, who return to it year after year and grow old with it, are not the ones who are unafraid of it. They are the ones who respect it. They have learned the difference between confidence and competence, between the desire to reach the top and the wisdom to turn around, between what the postcard shows and what the place actually is. Millions of people walk into this valley every year, stand beneath those walls, feel something open up inside them, and walk back out completely unharmed. That is the rule. The deaths are the exception, and most of them turned on a single small decision in a single beautiful place. So the question is not whether Yosemite is worth it. It is. The question is whether you understand what you are standing inside of when you are there. Not the version on the screensaver. Not the version with the gift shop and the shuttle bus and the bars of signal on your phone. The real one. A vertical wilderness of ancient stone and cold water and fast weather that has been here far longer than us and will be here far longer still. The mountain does not negotiate. It does not make exceptions. It does not care how far you drove, how long you planned, or how many times you have done this before. It is simply there. Ancient, indifferent, and breathtaking. And the only thing it asks of you is the one thing most people forget to bring. Do you understand where you are